Check, check, check. Here we go. What's up, everybody out there in listener land? It's been a minute. It's been a few minutes. In fact, I think it's been like 3 years. But guess what? I'm back. I missed you guys. Man, it's been a while since I've been on the microphone. Been doing a lot of things, let me tell you what. But being on the microphone has not been one of them over the past 3 years. And so, well, you know what? I decided it's time for me to come back. And I wanted to do a last chapter of this show that hopefully will be fantastic. And I'll get into a little bit more of what that's going to be here in a second. But I wanted to kind of talk about the elephant in the room first. The thing that you probably are all thinking, which is, well, where'd you go? What happened to the show? And there's a lot to that story. So I'll kind of break it down for you a little bit. But basically, you know, I had to step away. And it wasn't for any major reasons other than I just needed to step away. And then I had a good friend in Elliot who picked up the show and ran with it, and he was a fantastic host for the time that he had it. And then some life events happened and shit happened, and you know what? That happens, right? And he had to step away from the show as well, and we just didn't quite end it the way that, I feel like this body of work needed to be ended. So anyway, I'm back. One of the other reasons why I'm back, though, is that the landscape for real estate podcasts right now, I gotta say, it's boring as shit. I mean, let's be honest. When I first started this show in 2013, 2014, there was only a few shows, and, we were one of them, of course, and one of the more popular ones, one of the most popular ones, or the most popular one for at least some of the time. But, there was a lot of things that hadn't been done yet in this space. And so everything was kind of new, these interviews of these people telling their stories about, how they built their businesses, how they made money, whatever it is, the hero's journey that they create where, they have these failures and then they have this success, and then they go around the podcast circuit and they tell everybody the same story, and you hear the same people on every show. And let's just face it, that got boring, right? It was great at first because you hadn't heard all those stories, but, after years and years of people kind of doing the podcast circuit, telling these same sort of stories or same sort of pitches, things just kind of get old. And so now I feel like we're at a point, at least in the real estate podcasting space, where there's only so much you can talk about, right? At the end of the day. And most people that are on the microphone, they're just boring as shit. That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. And they may have some good information. I'm not saying that they don't, but, let's face it. I like to be entertained when I learn, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do as well. So I feel like the landscape out there right now for real estate podcasts it's in a good place for me to kind of come back in and put together a last chapter and try and flip the script a little bit. Try and make this game of real estate a little more entertaining again and not so boring and monotonous. That's a word. I think that's a word. I think I pronounced it right anyway. And I want to kind of add a little flavor back into the mixer. I want to add a little pizzazz, as I often say. So that's why I'm back, and I'll dive into a little bit more of that here in just a second. But before I do, I wanted to kind of pay tribute to somebody that was a big fixture in my life. It was a big fixture in a lot of your guys' lives. Many of you that have been in the DFA forever or have been connected to me, via that or the podcast. Many of you guys knew Artem. And Artem he's been on my show, or on this show, I should say, multiple times. We were good friends. We went on some vacations together with some other great real estate guys. We chatted a lot. He was an incredible inspiration to myself. Every time I talked to him, I felt like, geez, I got to do more. I got to get on my horse here. And that's an amazing thing. And it's not to say that I haven't done a lot, because I have, but when you come across somebody that, is in your same sort of age bracket, let's say, and, they're doing things that, even to you as somebody who's a doer, really pushes the envelope and kind of blows your mind, it's super inspirational. And, he was that guy to me. He was that guy to many of you that are either listeners of the show in the DFA, knew him, knew us both, whatever. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He passed away, a couple of months ago, and it was a shock to everybody. And it's still a shock. he was a good dude. He was going to do a lot of things, but the reality is that we've been in a tough market for the last year here. With interest rates, shooting up to, fairly ridiculous levels, it's made it really difficult for a lot of people's businesses to operate, and especially a lot of commercial businesses where, you're building, big buildings and lots of units and things like that. And you're operating off of, debt that, is either ballooning or, rates are skyrocketing. And there's just a whole magnitude of other things that kind of factor into it as well. But, he was climbing this huge mountain of development. And at the end of the day, it got the best of him. And I really, I just want to pay tribute to him. He was a doer. He did a lot of things. He touched a lot of lives. He inspired a lot of you guys. And he was a good friend of mine. And so, this last chapter, if nothing else, we'll dedicate it to him and what he did for the real estate space and what he did for many of you guys out there in listener land. And, I was in the last up and down, I should mention, when we had the Great Recession of 2008, 2009. And, I saw a few people take their lives through that up and down because it crushed them financially. It crushed them mentally. And, this business can be tough. It's not always what it's made out to be on the internet and posts that people make and, the rah-rah and, look how much money I made and look at these deals I'm doing and look how great my business is. And we all have those moments, but the reality is that there's a lot more trying, challenging moments than there are those moments where you win and you feel great. We just kind of see the highlight reel of other people because nobody posts the shit, right? That's just the way life works. So, we put on this facade, but the reality is that it's a tough business, and this business can eat you alive. And the farther you climb up the mountain, the farther you can fall down. And so, it's unfortunate, on all sides, back in the day, people that I knew and now, fast forward to today with Artem. But you got to be careful. You got to know what you're doing, and you really got to continue to learn, and you got to kind of keep perspective. And hopefully I can provide you some of that on this show moving forward. Given that I've been in real estate now since 2002, buying and selling houses. I own a mortgage company. Then I started a development company. Now we've turned into a whole lot more than that as well. But it's been 22 years. So hopefully I can give you some perspective on this last chapter. That's really what I want to do. The nuts and bolts of like how to find a deal, how to do direct mail, how to talk to sellers, things like that. There's a whole shitload of content on that I've created over the years. And to be totally frank, it's evergreen. Talking to people doesn't change. How you talk to them doesn't change. There's a little bit of technology that's come into our space, and I'll make mention to some of that that may help with, lead generation and kind of leveraging that technology to run your business a little bit better if you want to. But at the end of the day, it's a real estate business, which means it's a people business, which means it's, interaction and pattern interrupt and things like that to generate lead flow, build rapport, close deals, things like that. So anyway, getting into kind of the next thing, but this will be a tribute to Artem and we'll just leave it at that. The next thing I wanted to mention is that, I stepped away, right? And, probably some of you were thinking, well, why'd you do that? You had a good show going, you had a good thing going. And we did. It was fantastic. I mean, I don't know how many episodes we did, but hundreds of episodes. And, it was a fixture in my weekly schedule, right? Or bi-weekly schedule. I'd be doing it, some sort of a show, whether it was an interview, whether it was a mono show, where I'm just kind of talking about a topic, teaching you guys stuff. But, the longer that I did it, the more I kind of got connected to or got to know the world of content creators and event organizers and people that put you on stage and the gurus, we'll call them, right? And they're all interconnected, right? And some gurus, run their own events now and things like that. And, I got to know a lot of these people. And at the end of the day, I've made way more really quality friendships through the world of podcasting than anything else. It's been an amazing tool, and that's why I'm back, honestly. But I also met a lot of people that, are fixtures in our space. And the reality is that I didn't like them. I didn't like what they were about. I didn't like the facade that they'd created. They just were not, they just weren't my people, at the end of the day. And some people, are different than me, and those are their people, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I like people that are that are real. That's why we called this the Real Dealz Podcast. I like people that are really doing this business. I like people that aren't afraid to kind of share the ups and the downs and just to be a real person, right? Like, some days are awesome, some days suck ass. That's just what it is. And so the kind of the deeper I got into this business, the longer that I did it, the more I got to know, these people. Some of them I liked, and some of them were just complete frauds or hucksters or whatever, but they were great marketers, right? And maybe they did a little bit of real estate, but they were able to build a persona online, and that was really their core business. And good for them for being an online marketer, I guess. But it always kind of irked me a little bit because I always have loved real estate. Real estate's been my thing. It's been the thing that I've made the most money doing. It's the thing that's provided me the success that I have. It's the thing that allows me to live the lifestyle that I do. And being in the content creation world, we've of course made some money with it, but it's never been like my main thing, right? And so I don't know, I always just took exception to people that weren't in real estate first. They were in content creation first, and they were in real estate second. And I found a lot of those people, and it just kind of turned me off. And after a while, I didn't want to interview any more of these people, and some that I had on the show ended up being really douchey characters, and it just kind of burned me out a little bit. And then the other thing that I realized is that some of these guys that, I'm talking about, I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but, some of them had very successful coaching information businesses. And, I realized, early on, and this just kind of was continually shown to me over and over and over again, over the course of the number of years that I ran the show, is that, when you're doing content creation, you get good at, or you don't get good, you tell people what you think they should know, right? To kind of give them a roadmap, how to get through this world of real estate investing, how to build your business, or options on how to build your business. Not everybody's business is a thumbprint. It's a little bit different, but at least it gives you options. It gives you things to think about. And so as you build your business, maybe, that'll help you build it to be what you want it to be. And that way you don't turn around one day and go, I don't even like this business. Why did I build it, right? And so, I think that's important. But in doing that, you tell people what they need to hear in order to do that. And, the truth is that at the end of the day, the thing that makes the most money is telling people what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. And so a lot of the content creation folks, guru folks, they've gotten really good at telling you what you want to hear. And that ultimately, triggers buying opportunities, right? From them, whether it be coaching, information, whatever. And, it's a business in itself, and I get it, and I'm not poo-pawing it, but it just wasn't me. That's not me at my core. That's just not me. And so I couldn't do that without feeling like I was kind of losing some of myself, right? Kind of eating some of my own soul. And, it just wasn't me. I was more a real estate guy than I was an information marketer, and I still am. And so I had to step away. And I just couldn't do it anymore. I just kind of was like, you know what? This business has just kind of burned me out a little bit. And I've said everything that I needed to say. I said everything that can help you guys along your way. So at that point, Elliot wanted to step in. He wanted to take over the show. And I said, sure, let's do it. And he ran with it for a while. And, of course, that came to an abrupt end as well. And I wish him all the best. I don't have any ill will against him or anything like that. We're still friends. And, but he's putting his life back together, and I hope that, he ends up in a great place as we kind of continue to move forward. But I'm going to do what I need to do to kind of pick up the ball here and run with it and kind of finish out this last chapter. And so since I walked away, I've had a lot of changes in my life, of course. And so I feel like now I have a lot more that I can say to you guys. I've got a lot more life experience. I've got a lot more business experience. I have things that, I think I can share that will really help you guys on your journey. And so, I left Portland. No surprise there. Most of you guys that have followed me for any length of time, that, that's not a surprise. Let's say that. I was born and raised in Portland with the exception of living, 4.5 years in Boulder, Colorado. That's where I lived my entire life. And it turned into a really not great place to live. And, it was a beautiful city. It always rained too much, but it's become a state that is too heavily taxed. The weather is not great. And the policies and the quality of life have just gone down the shitter. And it's, there's two types of people in Portland. There's people that are in complete denial about that, and there's people that just deal with it, right? And I just couldn't be either of those types of people anymore. I just had to leave, and I had to kind of expand my horizons, and I had to kind of step away and see what else is out there in the world. And it was not an easy thing to do. I mean, I left a home building business behind that, was 20 years in the building of kind of creating it and making it what it was. I mean, we were a household name. Everybody knew us. I knew all the biggest players in town. We had lots of relationships for whether it be money, realtors, whatever. I mean, hell, I even built, the Portland Real Estate Podcast, which is still going today and run by two, great guys and good friends of mine. We were a big fixture within the world of real estate there. And so, I closed up the company. I walked away from that show, sold off our entire rental portfolio, all of that, and left and moved to Naples, Florida. And in that process, I actually created another show, which many of you may have listened to. It's called The Journey. And that was one season, and I was able to do that with, of course, Dan, who helps produce this show and has from day one, but also Kevin, who was the producer for the Bigger Pockets show for many, many years, when Brandon was on there, and it was a very big show. And, I was very fortunate to have him as a friend and somebody that said, you know what, I'll help you kind of produce and create this show and come up with the ideas for it. And we ran, through a full season one, and it was a great show. It really was, but it was very time intensive. It pushed me to the limits in terms of what was needed in order to produce that show. And I'm thankful that he kind of helped me do that for sure. And I guess I should publicly thank him. That's what I'm doing right now. But it kind of expanded my podcasting game. It kind of opened my eyes to the different ways that you can podcast. And that was kind of like a level 10 podcast in terms of production quality and, planning and things like that. This is, much simpler. I just get on the microphone, and sometimes I have, some bullet points. Sometimes I just blab, it just depends. And then if you have like a show with a co-host, that's pretty easy. You just kind of go back and forth talking about things. So, those are much simpler shows to create than what The Journey was. But it was a great show, and it kind of just profiled my initial leaving Portland, coming here, and just, rebuilding life and rebuilding, my business here. And so that's kind of what it is. And now that we've done that, as I record this, it's, just before New Year's in 2023. It's about to be 2024. I left for Florida 2 years ago yesterday on a drive all the way across the country. And I made it here, a couple days after New Year's, but it's been 2 years basically since I've been here now. So I've been able to kind of rebuild my life here, rebuild the business here. We're still building, of course, but I've got a pretty good footing under me. I've got some great people that work with us, and we've got a lot of things that we've done that I can share. And so I'm excited to kind of continue building what we've started here, but also share with you guys, the trials, the tribulations, the wins, the losses, the differences. Now, of course, we're building houses, but we also have, a hospitality side to our business where we run a lot of vacation rentals, where we've bought and either built and rented out houses or bought and renovated, and now we're renting them out, and we have this portfolio, and it's doing very well for us. But it's a whole different side of the business that I've never done before. And, I've kind of been introduced to the world of short-term rentals. And, let me tell you, that's a shit show and a half, for most of the people that run houses in that business. And I'll dive into a lot of that, and I'll give you guys some tips, tricks, and things that we've done there. If your market is one that's ripe for it. Portland wasn't a good market for that. And so, we didn't do much of it there. But we are here. So, you go to different markets, you get different opportunities, and you got to kind of take advantage of that. So that's what, I'll be able to share with you guys, along with, countless other things. The format of this new show, it's probably going to be, maybe a half-hour episodes. This one will be shorter than that, of course, because it's just kind of a, I'm back and, welcome back type episode, and saying hi to you guys, of course. But it'll be probably about a half-hour show. We'll talk about some topics, probably some headlines. We'll try and educate you guys on the real estate business. Maybe we'll even make fun of some of the douchier characters out there in our space. Because at this point, I'll be 44 in a week. I really don't care which ones like me, don't like me. I don't even care if I get on stage and talk anymore. At one point that was something that appealed to me. Now I could care less. I get on the microphone and talk to you guys, and that's really the extent of what I need to do in order to kind of find my happy place. Let's call it. I'm not striving to to be on stage and have people clamoring or whatever. It doesn't appeal to me anymore. I guess as you get older, maybe that happens. But hopefully that'll allow me to put out some better content for you guys, and just kind of give you real content, right? Stuff that hopefully entertains you, but also will help you guys build your own business. So this is episode 1 of the last chapter. It's not episode 1 overall, but episode 1 of the last chapter. I'm back. I'm happy to be back. I'm excited to kind of reconnect with a lot of you guys that have listened to the show for a long time, connect with a lot of you newer listeners that, may just find us on this go round and maybe go back and listen to some of the other ones and get some of the tactical information. But I'm excited to be back on the microphone, and I'm ready to give you guys a great last chapter. And so with that being said, I'll see you guys on the next show. Stay tuned.